Okay, so this is an impromptu episode. I'm Alon.
I'm Elik.
And Elik, you want to say some stuff about us?
So we are both anti-Zionist Israeli citizens. I don't know, like let's say we're not consider ourselves Israelis, but it says Israeli on our passports.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we grew up in as Israelis, but we reject Zionism. So the questions, what are we, is kind of open. Alon refer to himself as Palestinian. I don't know. I feel I have like some thoughts about it because I don't even speak Arabic, and sometimes I feel it's a bit that maybe this title is something that I have to work harder to claim that I am, or maybe what I'm doing now is enough because I'm working very hard against the Zionist regime. And maybe being from the land and resisting Zionism makes you a Palestinian. I don't know, but I think this is a discussion we're having, and I feel that to me, maybe it will never be solved, and it's fine because there are more things to solve than the question, who am I? Like, it's more important to end genocide and to make the apartheid state fall. And the question of identity, we can discuss all our life. We have all our life for that, and it's an interesting discussion, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a done choice, that's my take on that, my small rant.
Yeah, I agree completely with everything you said, actually.
Yeah.
And I want to add that, so sometimes I think maybe I'm from Palestine, maybe that's more accurate, because Palestinian, it has a lot of weight, but I'm from Palestine, that's true, because the land is Palestine and I'm from there. What can I do? I was born in Palestine, that's like a fact, that's just a fact. So I'm from Palestine, again, a fact. And what I want to say about this whole identity thing, I think I'm an anarchist. Is this my identity? No. It's just a position that I have. It's a political position that I have. Does this define me? No. But as someone who has this political position of anarchism, I find that the questions of identity, that when people take them too seriously, it's very problematic. And this is part of the point. This is part of the reason why I hold this position of anarchism, because I see that people hold their identities very, very close to their heart, which is fine. But then when they take it too seriously, when they start to act from this identity in a way that is separating, that is violent, that is oppressive, that is, all these things, then problems start to come. And so, for example, you cannot blame, okay, so there's so many sides to this, we can talk about this for hours and hours and hours. So people who define themselves as Palestinians as like a form of resistance against the Zionist regime, and then they take their identity very seriously as a way to resist the oppression of the Zionist regime. Okay, I get it. And this is even important in a lot of ways. But if it becomes something that is violent, then I think that it's counterproductive. And having said all that, maybe my bottom line is that this discussion that we're having, this game that we're playing with figuring out what our identity is, I think it's important. I think it's important to not take our identity too seriously. And you know what? The Palestinians that we speak with, usually I find that, yes, they take their identity seriously, but if you joke about it, they're willing to joke about it. And I think that this is a good sign. If you can't joke about something, if you can't be lighthearted for 1 second, maybe there's something problematic here, maybe understandable, but maybe problematic. And I find that Palestinians usually can joke around with me. And I think that this is a positive sign. I don't know. I'm treading dangerous waters here, but I'm going to do it anyway. So, why did we decide to do this impromptu discussion? You want to tell the audience what is going on now?
Yeah, like I felt there's many things I feel like I want to reply to, but you know, yesterday it just usually like we don't do comments on something specific, and you know, and I feel now, you know, yesterday or 2 days ago was the death of the 6 Israeli hostages.
You're saying the, but we have to acknowledge that this is something like it's happened several times now that multiple Israeli hostages were killed, and it's a discussion: who were they killed by, whose fault it is. We can talk about it more later. But this is not the first time that such a thing happened. But for some reason, this was like something moved in like Israeli politics because of this, right?
Yeah, and then in Israel, like I don't know. Yeah, I heard there's now a strike. Is it true? There's a general strike?
I don't know. Okay, so to be honest, I'm not very well connected to Israeli politics. And like I sometimes I go, so there's the website that I usually go to get the Israeli news, which is basically Zionist propaganda at this point, is Ynet. It's like the most mainstream media website in Israel. I go to get like the basic facts, and I know that they are always filtered by heavy layers of Zionist propaganda, and when I look at it critically, it's like fine, okay. And I go on there maybe once every few days, you know, just if I feel like it, to see what's going on. I kind of not care what is going on with Israeli politics. To me, it's like an internal discussion between inside this cult that I'm like outside of now, like mentally at least, I'm outside of it. So I find myself disinterested in the thing called Israeli politics. But yes, I heard, I hear stuff, okay? I can't help but hear stuff being here in Israel. Just to say, you're in the US now, okay? Elik is traveling in the US now. So you're looking from the outside in at the moment, and I'm inside physically. So I heard about the strike. I don't know if people did the strike or didn't do the strike. I know that a lot of people were talking about it. Yesterday, I was in Tel Aviv. I live in Haifa, but I was in Tel Aviv yesterday. And this was a coincidence. There was a big protest in Tel Aviv because of this incident of the 6 hostages who were killed. And I happened to be in Tel Aviv visiting a friend, okay? And I was walking in the center of Tel Aviv, and I saw a lot of people with the yellow shirts, okay, going to the protest. Yellow is the color that the pseudo-political movement, in my opinion, it's not an actual political movement, to return the hostages. They have the slogan, bring them home now, bring them home now. What does it mean? What does it mean, bring them home now? How? Using a military action? Doing a deal? It's not really clear what they want. But
at the beginning, it meant we want a war, I think.
Yes.
And now it can mean also we want ceasefire, and it's not clear, or it's clear that they want ceasefire. I'm not sure what is the. I think now it's clear that it's ceasefire, right? They want ceasefire already.
They don't say ceasefire; they say deal.
Deal.
They say
Okay,
deal.
but deal implies ceasefire at the end.
You know, if we were dealing with rational people who are connected to reality, I would tell you yes, of course.
Yeah.
But I am careful when I try to deduce the political position of factions within the Zionist cult, because I don't know, they can be very crazy and they can say stuff that is self-contradictory always. This is part of the problem. So I don't know. I think many of them would agree to a ceasefire. But if you say, okay, so what is the deal? What is the deal? Do you release all the Palestinian hostages as well? Do they agree to this? No, some of the Palestinian prisoners, they don't call them hostages, they call them prisoners. They have blood on their hands, right? Dam al yadayim. So in Hebrew, dam al yadayim, blood on their hands. So you cannot release them. So do you support the deal? Do you not support the deal? I don't know if it's that clear in this movement. Like they don't do the thing where they say, okay, this is what we want. They say vague things, and I think it's on purpose.
Yeah.
So I was walking in Tel Aviv and I saw all the protesters and I got upset. And I put something up on Instagram. I recorded something like like immediately. I was like,
yeah. And that's
it.
Yeah.
You were going to say something.
No, that I can say what you said because your video inspired me to do this.
Okay.
Because you said like basically, fuck you people. What you're saying a deal, and we have been in a demonstration, like left-wing demonstration, that says we want ceasefire and deal 10 months ago. And
yes.
if you guys would listen to us, the hostages would have been here already.
Maybe let's tell the story of this protest, because it's also an interesting story on a personal note for us, right?
Right, because this is where we became friends, actually, right?
Yes, it was basically one of the first times that we met.
Yeah.
So you want to tell the story, Elik?
Yeah, I think it's the first time that we met in this current like situation. It was the first demonstration against the genocide in Gaza that I've been to. It was in a designated space.
Yes.
That we were allowed to go, which ironically,
in occupied Yafa.
Which ironically is on the ruins of a very important part of Jaffa that was destroyed in 48. But they allowed us to do the protest only there. It was kind of nice because there were a lot of people, but it was surrounded by police and it felt a bit like, I don't know, like a cage that they allowed us. But I don't know, it was 2 months after the war.
I think it was November. I think it was mid-November. I don't remember exactly. Maybe end of November, maybe mid-November,
yeah.
End of November.
And we were calling for a ceasefire. We were calling for a deal, hostage deal. And they were already destroying Gaza. People already were talking about genocide because there
were already thousands of fatalities in Gaza at that point.
Yeah, there were already thousands of fatalities, and it was very clear like where it's going already, like by the way people talked, you know, like. So yeah, and what they did, like, yeah, and then we stand here like 10 months after, it's still happening.
Yes.
And still, like, I feel like people once a while tell me, why don't you talk about the hostages? And it, you know, and I feel there is part in me that even angry that we do it now, because I feel like, okay, these are dear people that died, and you know, when I heard that they died, I felt emotionally sad because I saw their faces hanging. I felt like as a bit I knew them. It was personal because the Israeli media works that when Israelis are being like when they're died or they make it super 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 personal for you.
Yes, yes.
And when Palestinian dies, they make it the most impersonal. It's a number. Now, for me, I don't give a shit about nationality anymore. I don't care about people who died because they're Israelis. So every time people tell me, why don't you talk about the hostages? I have this impulse to say, fuck the hostages. And now I know people will want to quote me and take this off of context. Of course, it's not what I feel. Like I mean, fuck you, because you killed so many people, and it's true, it's horrible, and I love that, and it's so sad, and and because they put and this guy Hirsch from Jerusalem, like people I know were friends of him. It's close, it's personal, and it's very 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 sad because they could be here long time ago with the way they could be safe with not traumatized. And the truth is that I don't know that if people don't see at this point that the biggest enemy is like is like this Zionist regime, like I don't know what to tell you. Like they're killing everybody. They're killing the soldiers, they're killing the hostages, and they're killing the Palestinian, and they're killing the future. And like,
yes,
at least let's call it in its name. At least let's recognize it. I also don't know how to stop it, but I don't want to be blind, and I don't want to, like, if Nurit Peled, that when her daughter died in attack in the 90s, still in the Shiva, in the 7 days, she kicked Bibi out of her house.
Shiva is 7 days of mourning.
She kicked Bibi out of her house.
Yes.
And she said, I blame the occupation for the death of my child. I don't blame, she said, I don't blame the people who took her life. I don't blame them. They at least had the dignity to die also. But I blame I heard her saying that, and it's
I didn't know that this happened. This is very powerful, I think. Yes.
Yeah, and I think if she says it, I can say it.
Yes, yes, you have like permission because she is like a direct victim
to put the direct blame on the occupation of Palestine and on Zionism, and this is the root cause. Like who is responsible personally, it's less important, I think, in a way.
Yes. So I hear you, and I hear that your thoughts are very scattered. And I sympathize with this because, like, for me, so many thoughts, so many different thoughts that it's very hard to like separate all of them and see all of them and hold all of them in my mind at the same time and feel what I feel. All these feelings, they get mixed up.
It's all mixed up. Yeah, I said something that it's like also contradicting itself. Yeah.
Yes, but I think that this is the situation. This is the point. I think it's good that you said it like this because this is the point that the situation is complicated. But first of all, let's say that the situation is simple in our opinion. The situation is simple. There is a system here. This system is called Zionism. It is a regime, a settler colonial project, a regime of supremacy, of ethnic supremacy. It is a system that is oppressive. It is a cult. It is the problem. The problem here. It is part of a bigger problem worldwide, but it is also the problem here. It is the cause for all the death and violence that we see around us. And this is why we want to dismantle it, because we think that once we dismantle it, we solve a lot of problems here. And when we say the one-state solution, what we actually mean, we are anarchists, so we are against states. But the point is dismantle Zionism. One state is not a Zionist state. The one-state solution is basically equivalent politically, pragmatically, to the dismantlement of the Zionist project. This is what.
Yeah.
So after I said that this is simple, I want to respond to everything that you say, and I want to kind of, untie it, okay? Because I know that in my own mind, it's also tangled up, and in my own heart, it's also tangled up, and I did a lot of work to try to untangle it. So I think that this is what we need to do.
And you help me with, because I didn't express it so that's why it's a bit like, like this. It's a mixture.
So you said all the things. You said all the things. Everything you said, I was like, yes, I feel the same. And everything that I feel, you said. But I think we need to untangle it so that people, because why? Why? Because when we express all these things simultaneously and not in a way that is organized, people can say, oh, here, you're a traitor, you're a hater, you're violent, you're blah, 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 blah. And we need to untangle it. And they're going to do it anyway. But if we untangle it, then they have no excuse, okay? So let's untangle it. And I'll try my best. And this is where I need to say, this is complicated because Zionism is a fascist, oppressive, supremacist regime, and fascism complicates everything. This is one of the tactics and strategies of fascism is to complicate everything and take reality and present it in an inverted way and in a warped way and in a distorted way, so that we do not understand what is going on. And distort our feelings and distort our thoughts. And this is why it's so complicated, not because things are
complicated. And then we go against each other because you're not clear at your goals, and you start calling the name somebody who's actually on your side, or okay.
Yes, I agree completely. So let's start untangling, okay? So let me see where I think I want to start. So I want to start with the simplest truth, the simplest, deepest truth that I can say. And the simplest, deepest truth that I can say is that I want everyone, and when I say everyone, I do not limit myself when I say everyone. Some people, when they say everyone, they mean all Jews, they mean all Americans, they mean all humans, they mean all kinds of things. But when I say everyone, I mean everyone, all living beings. When I say it, I mean all living beings. I want everyone to live peacefully, equally, with prosperity, with freedom. This is what I want. I want love and prosperity for all. This is what I want. This is my deepest wish. And it always has been my deepest wish. And the more I think about things, the more I go deeply into myself, I see that this is the deepest truth that I can express always, always, always. All this entanglement, I go back to, what do I want? I want everyone to be free. I want everyone to be happy. I want everyone to be prosperous. I want everyone to have the possibility to do whatever they want, as long as they don't hurt anyone else. This is very simple and very deep. And the most important thing, Okay, so what does this imply? This implies that I don't want the genocide in Gaza to continue. This implies that I don't want any hostage. I don't want the hostages to die. I don't want the hostages to not be free. I don't want hostages to not be. I don't want this thing called hostages on either side. Okay, and this comes back to the protest that we went to in November. What was the slogan? What was the thing that we chanted?
Everyone for everyone.
Yes.
Everybody for
In Hebrew,
kulam.
Yes. Everyone for everyone. And this is an acknowledgement that there are hostages in the space between the river and the sea there are hostages on both sides. There are Palestinian hostages held in captivity in Zionist prisons, and there are Israeli hostages held by Hamas at this point in Gaza. And by the way, the number of Palestinian hostages is about 10 times? No, not 10 times. 50
I don't
times?
know. Wait. Yeah,
100 times?
I don't know. You know, and since the 7th of October, they just kidnap people regularly, so you can't keep track of it, I think. And some of them are getting raped and killed. And you know, I don't know what's going on to the Israeli hostages. It's also something that, you know, in Israel it's taboo that they're all being raped, and I didn't see proof of hostages getting raped. Haven't seen proof of that. Like, people talk about it. I don't know. I didn't do the research to know if it's true in some places or not true at all. I saw some of the hostages released and look that they're treated pretty well. So, but I don't know, maybe also rape haven't. Like, I don't want to paint a picture that I think that the Palestinians are always saints and that
But
you
I
know,
do have to acknowledge the way that I experience reality. I have looked for evidence as much as I can for abuse of Israeli
and
prisoners,
you didn't find.
Israeli hostages. I actively looked for it. I didn't find anything. More and more, I saw evidence that the Israeli hostages held by Hamas are treated quite well. For example, there was this hostage who was released. I think her name was Daniel, right? This was a few months ago. This was a few months ago. And when she was released, there was this document that came out. And the document was a letter that she wrote to her captives. At least this is what claimed. And it seems true. Like,
I saw the letter and it looks like Hebrew.
Yes.
Very neat handwriting. Like, I don't know if somebody would have faked it. I don't know. It doesn't
does
look
not
fake.
seem fake. To
It
my
does
best
not seem
judgment,
fake.
it seems true.
It
The
seems
best
true.
judgment that I have says this is true. She wrote a letter to her captives and she said, "You treated us very well. I appreciate you. Thank you for everything you did to us." In I don't remember the exact phrasing, but the tone of this letter was, yes, the situation is very, very weird and horrible, but you did your best in this situation, and I thank you for this.
Yeah.
And this letter was immediately deemed fake by Zionists. Immediately.
Yeah.
She did not talk about it. I was very curious at the time to hear what she has to say about this, but she did not talk about this.
They try to make the ones that, you know, and the one that was freed recently said something.
But one second, I need to finish what my thought about her.
Yeah.
They said that she wrote the letter because they forced her to write this letter.
Yeah.
Maybe. I didn't see any evidence to this. Maybe. But there wasn't any evidence presented for this. But what I do know is that now I think her husband is still a hostage now. And I think that this is why she's not talking. And I also know that if she expressed any opinions that go against the Zionist narrative, she would be, to put it mildly, heavily criticized. And to put it more bluntly, she would be attacked from all sides by Zionists. So I think this is why she shuts up. And I think she was convinced that she needs to shut up to not, rock the boat too much, so that the chances of her seeing her husband alive again are increased. And I don't know if this is true or false, but I think that this is why she is keeping silent. What do you think? What did you want to say about the current hostage?
No, that there was another one that said that that like she said like angrily like my things were taken out of context. I didn't say I suffered from violence from my captives, but I suffered from the bombs.
Yes. Yes,
and now they claim that all the that the 6 hostages were killed by Hamas people, but I don't believe them personally. I don't believe anything that comes from an army Israeli spokesman, from the Israeli media. I'm not saying I know what is the truth. I'm just saying I don't believe what they say.
I want to say something very general in this context.
Yeah.
I have lived under the Zionist regime for over 37 years. And of those 37 years, I have been politically aware to some extent for over 20 years.
Yeah.
More and more and more as time went by. And here is the strongest pattern that I can say that I recognized in this context of who to believe and who not to believe. Zionists say that Hamas are not to be believed, that the Palestinians are not to be believed, that they always lie. But my experience, and this is as honestly as I can, I examine the evidence, I examine what people say, I examine what the organizations say. My experience has been that Israeli authorities lie, and I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say 100% of the time. I think every time Israeli authorities say something about what happened, it is a lie and a distortion to some extent. To some extent, sometimes it's partially true. You don't know which part of it is true, but to some extent, it is always a lie. And something that I experienced again and again and again. A Palestinian does some violent act as a resistance to the oppression of the Zionist regime. Immediately, they say, or you know what? No, I misspoke. A Palestinian is killed by Israeli soldiers. Okay, Palestinian is killed. This is something that happens, and then immediately, the IDF spokesperson unit start lying about it. So they start saying the first thing that they say that he was a terrorist. He attacked. He was doing a pigua, a terrorist attack. And the soldiers were just defending themselves. And sometimes this just remains as unchallenged. But sometimes more evidence comes to light. For example, footage of the event, or some evidence of people like testimony of people who were there, and it contradicts the version of the IDF spokesperson unit. So they change their version and they do version 2, take 2, and they say something else, which is a little bit less,
there is some admission there in something, but not without taking responsibility or something.
And in extreme cases, this process repeats 5 times, 6 times,
until they have to admit, until they admit at the end.
Yes. But the point is that every time they give a new version, and every time this version contradicts all of the previous versions. And then you find yourself with 5 different versions, all contradict each other. So they are all lies. They are all lies. And the truth, we don't know what the truth is, but it is highly unrelated to what the IDF spokesperson unit says. This is what I know, that the IDF spokesperson's unit are liars. They just lie. They're professional liars. They are a PR team for the Israeli army, for the Israeli occupation.
And again, I think they're lying. But even if it was true and Hamas killed these people, I don't know, still the people who are truly responsible for that happening is is the Israeli government, and and not just this government, the whole state apparatus, that the only way it knows how to operate towards the Palestinians is by force, subjugation, and violence. Like it never, ever spoke any other language, never. Not in Oslo, not in whatever. Like, you cannot hold your Zionism and see the Palestinians as equal human beings. It just doesn't work together. You have to choose. And yeah, that's the and what you said, when we talked before, we wanted to talk about how Zionism is connected to a bigger phenomena. And I think like also people here, I speak with my with the Palestinian friends, who say how so many white people who doesn't have so much any special interest in this, still when this has happened, kind of became detached themselves from the Palestinian, like suddenly, because they couldn't take a stand against the genocide for some reason. And you think, okay, let's say you were an Israeli, I can think you're horrible by supporting this, but you can understand why people are so invested in this. Like, they're being brainwashed to Zionism. But why, for an American who live somewhere else, who didn't grow up in Zionist school, who, it's so hard to just say, yeah, I'm with the Palestinians because it's so clear. Why is it difficult? Because Zionism is not the only problem. That's the thing. And I think before we recorded this episode, you wanted to talk about this.
So this morning, I watched Kamala Harris's speech that she gave when she accepted her nomination for the Democratic Party for the presidential election race.
Yeah.
And I listened to this speech, and I must say I was horrified to my core, okay, by this entire scene that I saw. So I don't know where to start, okay? But first of all, I was horrified with how the whole thing just had cult vibes. This is what I was most horrified with, because she was speaking and it was like this preacher giving a sermon in those weird mega churches, or it was like the fascist politicians like Hitler and Mussolini giving their speeches, and I saw no difference in the vibes. I saw no difference in the vibes. Yes, the language that she uses is a little bit different, but the vibes are the same. And the response from the audience, this is what really bothers me. The cheers, and they're so psyched. They're so psyched with what she's saying. And I see these people and I'm like, they're crazy. They're crazy.
Yeah.
They're as crazy as the Zionists that I know. As crazy. It feels the same. It feels the same. And then I go into the content of what she's saying, and I was like trying to categorize the kind of things she's saying. So she started with, here is my personal story. Listen to my personal story. As if she's like this contestant on American Idol, as if this is like a reality show that she needs to tell her emotional story of how she grew up with difficulty, and my mother came from India, and then blah 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 blah. And it's just like, look at how amazing my story is and how it fits so well with the myth that the Democratic Party is trying to create around me, and the politics, the identity politics of the liberal Democratic Party. Okay. And people cheer and cheer and cheer and cheer, and I was like, okay, so this is your story, whatever, I'm not impressed. can you get to like saying something about policy? Anything? You're a politician. You need to talk about policy. The first thing that she said about policy was, I'm going to open the market to competition, which is like neoliberal, just the usual neoliberal bullshit. And in that sense, she is absolutely no different from Donald Trump. They have the same position. They serve the same kind of interests, the interests of the huge mega corporations. This is why she's doing this. Okay, and she presents it. She started from middle class. And I'm like, what a cliche, this is so ridiculous. And we know from Israeli politics that all the centrist Zionist politicians always talk about
we are going to save the middle class.
Yes.
We're going to
save like Yair Lapid, who is just supporting the genocide completely, right? He's like the centrist Israeli politician. He always talks about the middle class. So she talked about this, and then she said, Trump, he's going to do this, he's going to do this, he's going to do this. And this is the boogeyman. She's talking about the boogeyman, okay?
Yeah.
And he's going to take your reproductive rights, and I'm going to give you back your reproductive rights. And then she said, he's going to take away your voting rights, and I'm going to give you back your voting rights. And I'm like, okay, so what is going on here? This system has like two parts, and one part is the part that threatens you with taking away the little that you have left, and the other part is the part that promises you to give you back this
right
little.
Right. And you know what happens, and this is what happens here always, that what really happens is the status quo, which has its direction. And then there's the guy who threatened to take more. So the person that's supposed to be like better is protecting you from him, and they're both continuing the status quo together. It doesn't matter.
Yes, exactly.
And you know, Bibi now is committing genocide in Gaza, right? But for most of his career, he didn't act different from any centrist politician in Israel. He didn't do, you know, the left wing. I'm sure.
רגע, יש כאן, החתול עושה רעש ואני לא יכול להתרכז.
אוקיי.
מה זה הרעש? תמר, את יודעת מה זה הרעש שאני שומע? כאילו חתול שורד את הדלת. What?
What I wanted to say that, you know, all this right-left charade in Israel and in the US, it's like they try to tell us that the boogeyman will do extreme things. But there's actually one direction, there's one policy. And when we were talking about the American cult, is the cult of the American empire who wants to you know, continue to exploit the world, continue to, you know, cheat on the American people real interests. And yeah, at the end, we're talking about a system of world slavery, and the cult is what keeps people intact. And it's good that many people see it on Zionism now, but it's completely not the whole work that people have to do. And I think and I say why I'm keep talking about anarchy and, you know, going more radical than just talking about Zionism, because if you want to dismantle Zionism, you need to see the roots also of why Zionism happening. And also, you know, you can say Nazism stopped, but it didn't stop, you know, it changed form. So maybe the Zionist regime is going to fall, it will fall eventually. This is the historical wave. But if we're not going to deal with the root causes, it is going to happen somewhere else. And again, some certain group is going to be designated, you know, as the people who don't have rights, people around will be brainwashed to say why it's okay that we're slaughtering that group. And it happens time and time again in history. And there's always this kind of propaganda machine that works to legitimize it. And yeah, so what is the root cause? I don't know. You can say it's capitalism. You can say it's statism. You can say it's the combination of the two. I don't know. And it's the people enslavement in their minds to this, that people agree to take part in this by all the way that we take part in this, you know, like paying to the people who are doing this, staying silent, and don't, you know, the atomization that we talked about it last time, like,
yes.
Yeah.
So I think everything you said is super interesting, and I want to develop this.
Okay.
So first, I think it's really funny, not haha funny, but also a little bit haha funny, that it's both sides that do this boogeyman thing, right? Because Kamala Harris says, just an example, okay? Kamala Harris says, look at Trump, he's going to do this and this and this and this. This is why you have to vote for me. I will stop. But Trump says, look at the left, not the real left, the liberals, right? The democratic liberals, everything is with quotation marks here. And Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they are going to do this and this and this and this and this. This is why you have to vote for me, right? So the boogeyman is on both sides, and it's completely symmetrical. This is the point, that it's not really different. It's just two different versions of the same thing.
Yeah.
And they both promote generally and deeply the same policy and the same kind of status quo that you talked about.
Yeah.
And we see this mirrored in all of these things, right? So you say that if Zionism falls, there will be something new that arrives. And what is Zionism if not a reincarnation of Nazism, right?
Yeah.
We defeated the Nazis, not really. The reincarnation of the Nazi regime is the Zionist regime. This is why we compare always.
Yeah, it's expansionist, like Zionists try to say as if it's not expansionist. It is an expansionist. It's based on the same ethno-nationalist principles.
Yes.
Fucking Christ, you know, it's so funny that there was a group of liberal Zionists a few years ago that, you know how they called their brochure? Hasmol Aleumi. What is it when you...
So a smaller Leumi is the nationalist left.
Yeah, which is national socialist. Yeah. So it shows you how it's like the same fucking thing, you know.
It's the same line, okay? But let me expand on this.
Yeah,
I think this can get us to the root of the thing.
Yeah.
So the Zionist regime says, look at the Palestinians. The Palestinians are the terrorists. The Palestinians are the problem. We need to beat them. Okay?
Yeah.
And the Zionists, they criticize Hamas, and they do it in a way that is, let's say, very problematic, to say the least. But there is some truth to the criticism, and the truth to the criticism is that Hamas says the Jews are the problem. We need an Islamic state. Support us, we will start an Islamic state, and this will solve the problem against the Jews, against the West, against the whatever. So this is again a continuation of the same thing, more understandable, in my opinion, but still problematic.
Yeah.
And if we go one step further, so when I see supposedly pro-Palestinian people, and I don't really call them pro-Palestinian, because I think they're more anti-Jewish than anything. They say, oh, these people, they need to go back to where they came from, I'm sorry, but this is an unproductive statement, I can understand where it comes from. I can understand the rage. I can understand the frustration. I can understand when people are affected by such horrific acts, and they go to places that are more superficial, that are more reactionary. Okay, I can understand it, but it doesn't mean I agree with it, and it doesn't mean I support it, and it doesn't mean that I don't think that it's still part of the problem. And what is the problem? The problem is when we are separated, when we are pitted against each other. Always, this is the problem, and every time it happens, this is the problem. And okay, now I have a danger of sounding like a centrist. Let's all just get along. Let's all just live in peace. But what is the difference? What is the difference between normalizers? Okay, you want to say something about what happened with you and normalization? And then I will continue.
Yeah, that's like I played in, I did something with, I don't remember their name, their last name, Rotem and Osama.
Yes, yes.
Which are very guys that I really love, that they go and they tour together, and basically they talk about what we're talking, one state solution, about the solution is living together. And Rotem is like, Osama is amazing. He was a resistance fighter and now he's working towards that. And Rotem served in the IDF. And after his service, he started like de-Zionizing himself, and he really lived like with Palestinians on the West Bank, and
Not
he
us,
really
not like us.
Not like us. Yeah, he went even farther than what we did. He like lived and learned Arabic, and like he's all about like just living together with inequality. And some people still call Rotem and Osama normalizers, which is stupid because they don't talk about two-state solution. They're supporting boycott and divestment and sanctions. And they say, so maybe just because of the fact that there are Israelis there, and they speak and they say openly what we say, that we don't support the expulsion of the people who live, the Jewish population who are currently Zionist, right? They're Zionist right now. And we say, even though they are Zionist and they're supported and took part in the Zionist regime, they need to be allowed to stay if they can adopt to situation of equality.
Yes.
Now, if someone cannot adopt to it and will fight it, so he is allowed to say, okay, fuck you, we stop you. But if someone is agreeing to live under conditions of full equality between the river and the sea, we believe that any person who's born on this land should be able to take part. And more than that, we think that also it should be open for immigrants, because we believe in free immigration, right? And open borders.
Yes, as anarchists.
And as anarchists. So to us, all this question, who should be allowed to be there and who should not allowed to be there is stupid from the first place.
Yes. And this is the point. So you were called a normalizer because you cooperated with these people who are supposedly normalizers. Just stupid. And let me say very clearly what is the difference between normalizers and people.
And I want to say, like this name things.
Yes,
okay, so the person who said it about me because he heard was Miko Peled. I don't know. I don't want to make it. I don't have anything against. And Miko Peled is one of the most important people in my development. I followed him. I read his book. And I could go like feel like it's bringing me down. And then I said, fuck it. Even Miko Pele, the person who I really appreciate, can say about me something, but I'm loyal to my values and I speak what I believe in. And there are many people, Palestinians, not Palestinians, who resonate with this. And I'm interested in cooperating with them.
Yes.
And that's the bottom line.
Yes.
Yeah.
So here is my point. Where are we coming from? I said in the beginning of this discussion, what is the deepest truth that I can say? I want everyone to live in peace equality, justice, together to prosper, to have freedom, prosperity. This is the deepest truth that I can say. And this led me to a political position called anarchism, because I believe it is the one that promotes this vision the most.
Yeah.
And as part of being an anarchist, I don't like, don't like is a an understatement. Saying that it is an understatement is an understatement. So I don't like all these divisions. I don't like borders. I don't like them. I think that country borders are a form of violence. And I think it is one of the worst forms of violence, by the way. I think I realized what's going on. 1 second. Wow.
Oh, locked in the closet. Okay.
תמרי, בני היה תקוע בארון. זה מה ששמעתי כל הזמן.
Yeah, we finish soon, right?
Yes, soon.
We finish soon.
I think borders are a form of violence, and I think that they are one of the worst forms of violence because they limit our freedom greatly, greatly. And all of this separation, I think, is the violence. It's not the root of the violence. It is the violence, all of this separation.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say a thought that I had. When I was speaking with some friends about the hostage situation, okay?
Yeah.
It was shortly after we did the episode with Gaia, okay? Where this experience, where the green line, kind of the border between Israel and the West Bank, kind of dissolved in my mind. I was like, okay, what is this? Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing. It's just made up. And when we were talking about the hostages, also the Gaza war dissolved in my mind. More and more and more. It happens more and more and more. This is an arbitrary thing that was created as a part of the violent process of the expulsion of the native population of Palestine and the ghettoization, the creation of this concentration camp called the Gaza Strip. Okay, so this line that separates between Israel and Gaza, this border, is so obviously a result of violence. It's so obviously the cause of violence. It's so obviously violence. Okay. And why do I say this in the context of the hostages? Because here is an argument that I can make. If there was no wall, if there was no border between Israel and the Gaza Strip, then the hostages would not need to be freed because they would not be there. They would be here. Everywhere would be here. And there would be no there and here, and there would be no there to take them to. And you can elaborate this,
Yeah, I get what you mean.
I would just say a few more things. There would be no, why they call Gaza hell? They took them to hell. Why is Gaza hell?
Yeah.
Gaza is hell because you created Gaza as hell.
Yeah.
Why are the hostages being killed? Because they are being bombarded. And so forth and so on and so on. Why are the Palestinians who are hostages in Israel in hell? Because they are not here in the West Bank or in Gaza, their homes. They are there in Israel. But if you stop with all this separation nonsense, if you stop with all the border violence, there is no here and there anymore. Everyone is just here. You see? So you can talk about this for I have started elaborating this point in my mind more and more and more. And I think that the more you think about it, the more you see how much all of this situation is based on this separation, is based on saying them and us, is based on saying there and here. And this is the root of the violence.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. And I think, like, you know, at the end, people think the more you separate, you get more security. And it's exactly the opposite.
Yes.
The more you mix, the more you will mix us, the more safer we will be.
Yes.
And the more, and you know, I think, you know, many people think why the Jewish Holocaust is so horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some aspect of it is that it was done internally, right? They started to mark people who were already integrated into society. And I think what Zionism is doing to the Palestinians, that it always keeps them kind of as some kind of others, you know?
Others, yes,
They're
foreign in
foreign,
their own
but
land.
yeah, they're foreign in their own land.
Yes.
And this is like people who are, you know, pushed by policies to this kind of status. Usually these are the populations who get genocided, you know, they're the most defenseless.
Yes.
And we need to think why it happens again and again in history to certain groups, and these borders and this ability to take group of people and say they are different country and we're killing them because every country have to defend its own citizens from people on different country. And I'm like,
this is the most common Zionist argument, right? They are the enemy. When you
and
protect
who
them, you are
created
cooperating with
this?
the enemy.
Yeah, but you know, all your country, the Zionist country, is an artificial construct that brought people from many other different countries. And then you say we're allowed to bomb them because they're why we are such a closed, like all this construct is dumb from the first place. And yeah, and liberalism and all this kind of stuff, it makes you somehow think this okay, this is okay and normal.
And this brings
Saying,
me
and
back to Kamala Harris and why what she said was so scary to me.
Yeah.
Because her entire speech was completely founded in American nationalism, in complete jingoism, and that's why I saw her as nothing more than a classical fascist. She also says, exactly like Trump, she doesn't use these words, but she also says, make America great again. This is her message. She won't use these terms because that would make her too superficially similar to Trump. But the message of what she's saying is, let's make America great again. This is what she's saying.
And there are a lot of people in this American cult. You see how many flags I see here and how many. Yeah, of being here, you understand that Americanism is also something, and it's this and Zionism is connected very, very deeply. And of course, it's nationalism by at large, you know, like any nationalism. Also, I have to say it, also the Palestinian one at the end. Now it's because I identify with it, because for me, it symbolizes a resistance movement. But let's say Palestine will become a state, I'm going to resent the Palestinian flag. The moment there is going to be free Palestine, I'm going to hate the flag and I'm going to fight again to dismantle this state as well, just like
let me say it a
any
different way.
state in the world, you know?
Yes,
but
I
in the
agree.
current time in history, this flag symbolizes to me like end of oppression and equal rights. That's why I'm fine with it, you know?
Yeah, but let me say it in a different way. There is no such thing as a free state of Palestine. There is no such thing. There is no such thing as a free state. This is the deep point that we're trying to make here.
Right.
The land of Palestine can be free, a state of Palestine cannot be free. Like any state cannot be free.
Right.
Right? Maybe we should change the title of this podcast to One Land Solution. I don't know.
Yeah, or no state solution. We are.
We have these thoughts, but it doesn't matter. It's just a name. It's just a name.
Yeah. Yeah, and state is also, we need to remember that it's a dual word, because state is a condition also of things, right?
Right.
So maybe in that meaning, it works more. Even though this is not what we're advocating to, we don't think everything should be the same or one condition. It's just allowing people to live and be free. But
this goes back to what I was talking about before. Let's not take the words too seriously. Let's play with the words. Let's change the meanings. Let's decide what their correct meanings should be. Let's not get too hung up on the words. Let's have a little bit of sense of humor about the whole thing. Let's be a little bit lighter. Let's be less, combative about things here, and try to really find the ways to speak about things in a more productive way.
Yeah.
I want to say one other thing about the whole normalization thing, okay?
Okay.
So I think, what is the difference between normalizers and people who really fight the good fight and resist?
Yeah.
I think it all has to do with recognizing what the root cause is, what the problem is. And you can go deeper and deeper and deeper, but I think a good place to go in the context of what we're speaking about Palestine, is to see that the root cause of the problem is Zionism, and demanding the immediate and complete dismantlement of this system of Zionism. And if you do this, I think you are fine. If you don't do this, I think you can be considered a normalizer, and this will have some merit. And now I want to say something very direct about standing together.
Yeah.
We've been having discussions about standing together for
if they're normalizers or not, and they are kind of, right?
So I want to say that the more I think about it, the more I'm exposed to what standing together is doing, the less and less I can associate with it on any level. And at this point, whenever I see Alon Lee Green talking on Instagram, I get immediately nauseous. Seriously, I get sick. I'm sorry, Alon, we share a first name, but we don't share the same values, Alon. And I want to say something to you personally, Alon Lee Green. I think you're a politician in the worst sense of the word. I think you are a liar. I think you are a normalizer. And I think you are doing horrible work. You think you are doing amazing work, and I think you are doing horrible work. And the basis of my criticism towards you is exactly this. You still think that the Zionist project is something that should continue to exist. You do not recognize that the root cause of all the problems here and of all the violence here is the Zionist project. And you do not call directly and unapologetically for the complete and immediate dismantlement of this project. Therefore, you are a normalizer, and therefore you are my enemy. My enemy. Because you are supporting the system that is my enemy. You are part of this system, you are supporting this system, therefore you are my enemy. You can immediately become my friend and my ally if you call directly and unapologetically for the dismantlement of this system. But I think you will not do it, because I think you gain privileges from this system, privileges that you do not want to lose. And now I will say something even more, let's say, provocative. The Palestinian Israelis, who are the other side of standing together, you're also normalizers. You are also part of the problem. You are also supporting Zionism, and therefore, you are also doing something horrible, and you are also my enemies. I understand more why you do this. I understand more why Palestinian Israelis support the Zionist project. They have less of a choice. But this is no excuse. This is an explanation. This is something that helps me understand it more, but this is no excuse.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And
it
I
took me a
think
long time to be able to say this in a public way, but you know what? I feel relief now. I feel relief now that I'm
no, I'm happy you said it. And we have to be clear about this because this is very confusing, like standing together are collecting food to bring to Gaza. This by itself is a good thing to do. I support this, But if I take it for a larger context, I say, what if during the Holocaust there was German people who would give food to Jews on the concentration camp and in the ghetto, but would not call for dismantlement of the ghetto? What would I think about them? And in a larger historical perspective, I would say to them, fuck you. Because you're not too big to call for, I don't need to treat slave nicely. I want to stop their ending of being slaves. And we need to say it with the context of Gaza. Gaza, it's not, okay, we want to end the genocide in Gaza, but the genocide in Gaza will stop while the people in Gaza will be free. Because I'm supporter of the BDS movement, okay? I say it each time now, I say it. Because I think this, and BDS considered to be haters of Israel, right? And I think the only reason, the only chance we have that Zionism will fall down peacefully and not by and not by violent resistance, which the possibility of violent resistance is way more scary to the Israelis. And I look at the Zionism as something that's going down already. And now when people, and why I feel standing together, he wants to show to the world that the Israeli people are not so bad as they're seen. Look, they're giving food to Gaza. It's to show that Israelis have heart, that they're not monsters.
Yeah.
Fine. My thing is not to demonize the Israeli people. My thing is to stop it as fast as possible and not to try to show to the world some false image of the Israeli society being changed from the inside, because it's not happening. They're not being changed from the inside in a significant level. They're not going, not because they're bad, just because they grew up under this system, and we know from history that this is not how these systems fall. It's as though we're doing something for them, but actually we don't really help. And we make the process of the BDS, of sanctions, or what we try to make it slower. I want to make it faster.
Yes.
I don't want to make it slower. I want to make it faster. You understand what I mean?
Yes, I understand completely. And I will say something else in this direction. So first of all, the BDS calls standing together normalizers. Okay. I wasn't really aware of their definitions and their activity. And I want to say that it was maybe 2-3 weeks ago, I went into their website and I went into the page where they define what normalization is. And I must say that this document really impressed me. This is a serious document. A lot of thought was put into it. They give very clear and deep definitions of what normalization is. And then they explain why standing, when I read this, I'm like, okay, this is why standing together is normalizing, and this is why it's problematic. They explain why it's problematic. So please go into the BDS website and read the documents that they produce. Very impressive, in my opinion, as an academic. Okay, as a former academic, it is very impressive, in my opinion. So this is one point. The other point is that there is this famous quote. I think it is by John F. Kennedy. Quite ironically, he said, "Those who make peaceful resistance impossible make violent resistance unavoidable." So I'm rephrasing here, okay? But this is what you wanted to say, right? There's two options.
Right.
Zionism is going to fall. It's either going to happen the easy way, or it's going to happen the hard way.
Yeah.
BDS is the easy way. BDS is the peaceful way. BDS is the non-violent way. Sanctions, boycott, and divestment is the non-violent way. And if you block BDS, you get Hamas. This is the point. This is the point.
Right.
If you block non-violent resistance, if you prevent it, you get violent resistance, because resistance to oppression will happen, period.
Right.
And I think what you said about the Israeli and the Zionist mindset is very, let's bring it back to what I said about the protesters, okay? The protesters were now demanding a deal. So a lot of people around the world might think, oh, they saw the light, they changed their minds. They are now changing their political position. And I call bullshit. This is not true. They still have the same political position. The only thing that changed is that now they realize that the situation, way too late, they realize that the situation is hurting them personally and the people they care about personally. They still only care about Jews. They still are a part of the Zionist cult. They still only care about Israel. They still don't care about Palestinians at all. They still do not oppose the genocide, generally speaking. And I think that the only difference is that the situation changed and the atmosphere inside the Zionist cult changed, and the messages of the Zionist propaganda, what is mistakenly called Israeli media, is the messages are being changed. So it's becoming more and more acceptable to say, now we want a deal. These people will just say what is popular inside the Zionist cult. And now it's popular for considerations that are, circumstantial. Now it's popular to say, let's do a deal in certain factions of the Zionist cult. This is the only thing that's different now. They are the same people. They have the same political positions. They have the same motives. They have the same behavior generally. It's just expressing in a slightly different way. So please, people around the world who are anti-Zionists, who are pro-Palestinians, please do not be mistaken that something is changing in these people. The only way that things change with these people is that the Zionist cult dismantles, and then they will need to go through a deep process and long process of looking at themselves honestly and of deprogramming themselves from the brainwashing of the Zionist cult. I don't know how long it will take. I don't know if it is even possible for many
I
of them.
don't know, but it could be that there will be a lot of people who will just have to adopt to a new reality, and and their kids are going to be the one that will do the mental processing, like
maybe
like who knows?
Happened with Nazi Germany, and it's still happening.
Yeah, or
it's not done. Don't
still
be
happening
there as well.
Yeah, but we need to as people of conscience, of people who do think about this stuff, we need to. It's a lifelong project to help to dismantle. I think we need to, I'm also like, I'm doing music therapy, and and right now I'm more into the resistance part. But I think after this Zionism fall, we will need a lot of healers and therapists to work both for the Palestinians, all the trauma they endured for sure, but also with Zionists. Like, it will have to be,
I think your
both ways,
music,
the people who need to, the occupier, the oppressor, have to heal from the pain that he has caused. And I don't know, it will have to go both ways, but right now it's like it's a struggle, and people who don't understand it's a struggle, it's a bit, maybe that's why, people called Rotem and Osama that they went to their, because it's as if they're saying like, look, we healed. It's if presenting a situation as if something that didn't happen yet was already happening. And we need to make it very clear that we are on the struggle stage, not on the.
Yes.
We can go through. I feel I heal myself through that, but the healing of like Zionists from their Zionism, it's like it's not for now. Right now, we fight them. It's hard to say it, it's hard to admit it, but we need to admit it with compassion, with seeing their humanity. But as a struggle, we yeah.
So I was about to say, and this fits completely with what you're saying, that your resistance music, in my opinion, is a part of the therapy. It's a part of the healing process. Sometimes the healing process is not pleasant, and it's not and it's not fun and games, because what is happening is not fun and games. What is happening is so horrible that and so insane that some unpleasantness has to happen for the healing process to begin. And I think that when you meet someone who is being crazy and violent, like the Zionists are, and like the Zionist cult as an organism, as a mega organism is, you need to say some direct things, and you need to express criticism in a very direct way. And I think that part of what you do with your music is this. And what I said now to Alon Green, and I hope he listens to this. I don't think he will listen to this.
Maybe you need to edit it as a reel,
Yeah, and tag him on Instagram. And so I think that this is part of the healing. He needs to understand that he is part of the problem, and this needs to be said very directly. I do not want to cooperate with this anymore.
Yeah. So I think I have to go soon.
Yes. Right? So I think let me just say one last thing. I think what happened in this conversation, and I'm a little bit surprised, but also not surprised, is that we decided to say things as they are. In Hebrew, ledaber dugri, to speak directly, to not go around the bush anymore, and to say what we really, really think. And I must say that this feels good to me. It's hard, it's scary, it's confusing, but I also feel liberated. I also feel much better now that I took all this off my chest and that I said things as plainly and as directly as I could. And to me, this is the start of a process that I want to go through, that I think is good for you, Elik, and I think we need to go through it together, to say things more directly, to not hold our punches anymore. Just say things.
And we don't hold them for anyone. I don't care. I speak my truth. If someone confronts me from the pro-Palestine side, that I feel it's like yeah, fuck you. So I just say it like. I was kind of happy that I've been called normalizer by someone he's like a hero of mine,
yeah.
And I was like, fuck it, I don't give a shit,
Awesome.
Yeah.
That means you are connected to yourself and that you really believe in what you're doing.
Yeah. And he will regret it, I'm sure, at some point.
Yeah. Okay, so on this note, I think this is a good place to finish this weird episode, but weird in a good way, I think.
In a good way. I think we said important stuff here.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. So thank you for everyone who listened to us. And,
peace, justice.
Yes, peace and justice for all.
Yeah. And continue to resist whoever is watching in it, whatever means you have. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so bye-bye.